What if I told you that the loneliness epidemic among seniors isn't just about losing friends to time or distance? There's something more subtle happening. Behaviors that creep in so quietly, most people don't even notice they're pushing loved ones away. Margaret, a 68-year-old former teacher from Ohio, couldn't understand why her family visits became shorter and less frequent. Her phone calls dwindled and invitations to gatherings seemed to dry up. She thought everyone was just too busy with their own lives, but the truth was more complex. What Margaret didn't realize was that over the years, she had unknowingly developed patterns that were creating distance between her and the people she cherished most. These aren't dramatic changes. They're subtle shifts that accumulate over time, turning vibrant social connections into strained relationships. But here's the empowering truth. Once you recognize these patterns, you have the power to change them. Today, we're exploring 12 behaviors that can quietly sabotage relationships during our golden years. And more importantly, how to transform them into connection builders. If this resonates with you already, please hit that like button. It helps us reach more people who need to hear this message. And don't forget, we upload fresh content daily here on Elderly Active Life to help you thrive in every season of life. Let's delve into Margaret's journey and explore how small changes can lead to profound transformations in your relationships and overall well-being. Behavior number 1, defaulting to pessimism and criticism. Margaret had always considered herself a realist, not a pessimist, but somewhere along the way, her conversations began to follow a predictable pattern. She'd start with the weather being too hot or cold, move on to how expensive everything had become, and finish with concerns about how the world is going these days. When her neighbor's teenage son got his first job at a local coffee shop, instead of congratulating him, Margaret's first response was, "Good luck keeping up with all those demanding customers. Kids today don't know what real work is like." The boy's enthusiasm visibly deflated. The hidden impact. Negativity functions like an emotional drain on those around us. When every interaction begins with complaints or criticism, people unconsciously start to brace themselves before spending time with us. They may still love us, but they begin to limit their exposure to preserve their emotional well-being. The transformation strategy. Start with gratitude anchors. Before any conversation, mentally identify 3 things you genuinely appreciate about your day, your health, or your surroundings. Lead with one of these instead of jumping into frustrations. Practice the 80-20 rule. Allow yourself 20% of conversation time for legitimate concerns, but dedicate 80% to neutral or positive topics. This creates balance without suppressing your authentic feelings. Become a question asker. Instead of immediately sharing your perspective on why something won't work, ask, what excites you most about this? Or, how do you see this developing? Curiosity builds bridges while constant critique builds walls. Margaret discovered that when she started conversations by mentioning something beautiful she'd noticed, like the way morning light hit her garden, people lingered longer and shared more openly with her. What's one positive change you've noticed in your community lately? Share in the comments. We love celebrating good news together. Behavior number 2, neglecting personal presentation. For decades, Margaret took pride in her appearance. She had a signature style, always wore a touch of lipstick, and never left home without her hair properly arranged. But gradually, this changed. First, she stopped wearing jewelry because, who notices anyway? Then makeup felt like too much effort. Eventually, she found herself answering the door in the same comfortable clothes she'd worn for days. The shift wasn't sudden. It happened so slowly that Margaret barely noticed. But others did. The mailman stopped making friendly small talk. Store clerks became more perfunctory. Even her reflection in mirrors started to surprise her. Why this matters more than vanity. How we present ourselves sends signals to both others and our subconscious mind. When we stop caring for our appearance, it often reflects a deeper withdrawal from the world. More importantly, it can create a feedback loop where decreased attention from others reinforces feelings of invisibility. The revival approach. Establish non-negotiable daily minimums. This isn't about fashion, it's about self-respect. Shower daily, wear clean clothes that fit properly, and maintain basic grooming. These simple acts signal to your brain that you matter. Choose one signature element. Maybe it's a favorite watch, a spritz of perfume, or simply wearing colors that make you feel alive. One small touch can transform how you carry yourself through the day. Dress for your day, not your plans. Even if you're staying home, getting properly dressed creates psychological readiness for connection and opportunity. When Margaret started her dignity routine, her term for spending 10 minutes each morning on intentional self-care, she noticed immediate changes. Neighbors smiled more readily, service workers engaged in friendly conversation, and most importantly, she felt more like herself again. Behavior number 3, inflexibility and change resistance. Margaret's grandchildren lived in a group text where they shared daily updates, photos, and funny moments. For months, they tried to include her, but Margaret refused to learn texting. "If they want to talk to me, they know my phone number," she insisted. What she didn't realize was that she was missing birthday planning discussions, photos of her great-grandchildren's first steps, and spontaneous family jokes that brought everyone closer together. By the time she understood what she was missing, she felt like an outsider looking in. The cost of rigid thinking. Refusing to adapt doesn't preserve our independence. It gradually isolates us from evolving social connections. When we insist that others accommodate our preferences without meeting them halfway, we inadvertently signal that staying connected isn't worth our effort. The flexibility framework. Start with yes and thinking. Instead of immediately explaining why something won't work for you, try responding with, "That's interesting, and here's what I need to make it work." This keeps doors open for creative solutions. Choose one small adaptation monthly. You don't need to embrace every change, but staying open to learning one new thing each month keeps your mind flexible and shows others you're engaged with growth. Make learning a shared experience. Ask family members to teach you something new while you teach them something from your experience. This creates mutual value rather than one-sided accommodation. Margaret's breakthrough came when she asked her teenage granddaughter to teach her texting in exchange for cooking lessons. Not only did she master basic messaging, but they developed a deeper relationship through their weekly teaching sessions. What's something new you've learned recently that surprised you? We'd love to hear about your learning adventures in the comments. Behavior number 4, accumulating without releasing. Margaret's home told the story of her life. Every birthday card, newspaper clipping, and memento had its place. But over the years, those meaningful items multiplied until her dining room table became a sorting station she could never quite clear, and her guest bedroom became a storage room that guests couldn't use. When her sister offered to visit for a weekend, Margaret panicked. There was nowhere for her to sleep comfortably, and she felt embarrassed about the state of her once welcoming home. She made excuses about being too busy, missing an opportunity for connections she desperately wanted. The emotional weight of excess. Clutter doesn't just take up physical space, it occupies mental and emotional space too. When our homes become too crowded to comfortably host others, we unconsciously begin isolating ourselves. The shame around our living spaces can become a barrier to the very connections we need most. The gentle release method. Start with the easiest category. Don't begin with sentimental items. Start with obvious things like expired medications, old magazines, or clothes that no longer fit. Early success builds momentum. Use the 1-year rule for paper items. If you haven't referenced a document, article, or paper in the past year, and it's not legally necessary, it's safe to let it go. Create gift opportunities. Instead of throwing away items with life left in them, think about who might truly enjoy them. Turning decluttering into giving transforms the experience from loss to generosity. Focus on function over memories. Keep the items that actively contribute to your current life and comfort. Take photos of meaningful items you can't keep. You preserve the memory without keeping the object. Margaret started by clearing her dining room table completely, committing to keeping it clear for 1 week. The sense of accomplishment was so energizing that she tackled one small area each week afterward. 6 months later, her sister not only visited, but extended her stay because the house felt so welcoming again. Behavior number 5, impatience and irritability. Standing in line at the pharmacy, Margaret watched the young technician fumble with the computer system. Her prescription, which should have taken 5 minutes, stretched to 15. She felt her frustration building and finally snapped, "Don't they train you people anymore?" The technician's face flushed, and Margaret immediately felt terrible, but the damage was done. These moments of impatience had become more frequent. Slow service, technology glitches, and other people's mistakes triggered reactions that Margaret would have handled gracefully in her younger years. The ripple effect of irritability. Quick tempers don't just affect the immediate target, they create an atmosphere of tension that follows us. People begin to feel like they need to be extra careful around us, which creates distance even in close relationships. Moreover, chronic irritability raises our stress levels and impacts our health. The patience practice. Use the pause technique. When you feel irritation rising, take 3 slow breaths before responding. This simple delay often allows perspective to emerge. Develop empathy scenarios. When someone seems slow or incompetent, create a story that explains their behavior compassionately. Maybe they're new, having a difficult day, or dealing with challenges you can't see. Channel frustration into encouragement. Instead of expressing irritation, try offering support. Take your time. We've all been there. Or no rush. I appreciate your help. Recognize your triggers. Notice what situations consistently test your patience and prepare mentally for them. Going into potentially frustrating situations with adjusted expectations reduces reactive responses. Margaret committed to offering one encouraging comment daily to service workers or strangers. This practice not only improved her interactions, but also began to change how she felt about everyday frustrations. Have you found any techniques that help you stay patient during frustrating moments? Share your wisdom in the comments below. Behavior number 6, conversation domination. Margaret loved sharing stories from her teaching days and had decades of wisdom to offer. But during phone calls with her daughter, she noticed something troubling. Conversations felt rushed, and her daughter seemed eager to end them quickly. One day, her daughter gently said, "Mom, I love hearing your stories, but sometimes I feel like I can't share what's happening in my life. Our calls feel very one-sided." Margaret was stunned. She hadn't realized how much space her stories were taking up. The connection killer. When conversations become monologues, we inadvertently signal that our experiences matter more than the other person's. This doesn't just reduce talking time, it makes others feel unheard and undervalued, gradually weakening the emotional bonds we're trying to strengthen. The balanced conversation formula. Follow the 50-50 rule. Aim for roughly equal talking time in conversations. If you've been speaking for several minutes, pause and ask, "But what about you? How are things going with a specific topic?" Ask follow-up questions. Instead of waiting for your turn to speak, listen for details you can explore further. "That sounds challenging. How did you handle it?" Or, "What was the best part of that experience?" Share experiences that connect rather than compete. When someone shares something, resist the urge to immediately tell a similar story. Instead, acknowledge their experience first. "That must have been exciting for you. It reminds me of when..." This validates their story before adding your own. Practice the power of pauses. Leave space in conversations for the other person to elaborate or change direction. Not every moment needs to be filled with words. Margaret started setting a mental timer during phone calls. After sharing for a few minutes, she'd shift focus entirely to her daughter's world. The result was longer, more satisfying conversations where both felt heard and valued. Behavior number 7, rejecting assistance and support. Margaret prided herself on independence. When her neighbor offered to help carry groceries, she politely declined. When her son suggested hiring someone to help with yard work, she insisted she could manage. When friends offered rides to social events, she made excuses rather than accept help. But her determination to avoid being a burden was creating a different problem. She was becoming increasingly isolated. People stopped offering help because they expected rejection, and Margaret found herself struggling alone with tasks that had become genuinely difficult. The independence paradox. True independence isn't about never needing help. It's about having the wisdom to know when to accept support and the grace to allow others to care for us. When we consistently reject assistance, we deprive others of the joy of helping and gradually signal that we don't value their care. The graceful acceptance strategy. Distinguish between preference and necessity. Ask yourself, do I really not need help? Or do I just prefer to do this myself? There's a difference between maintaining dignity and creating unnecessary hardship. Practice saying yes to small offers. Start with low-stakes assistance. Let someone hold a door, carry a bag, or offer directions. Building comfort with small helps makes bigger assistance feel more natural. Reframe help as a connection. When someone offers assistance, they're offering a moment of human connection. Accepting help gracefully strengthens relationships rather than weakening them. Offer reciprocal value. You don't have to repay help with identical assistance. Offer what you can: a listening ear, a favorite recipe, or simply heartfelt gratitude. Margaret's transformation began when she accepted her neighbor's offer to help with groceries and then invited him in for coffee and homemade cookies. That small exchange became a weekly tradition that enriched both their lives. Don't forget to subscribe to Elderly Active Life for daily inspiration and practical advice for thriving in your golden years. Ring that notification bell so you never miss our latest content. Behavior number 8, excessive frugality and self-denial. Margaret had lived through times when every penny mattered, and that careful approach to money had served her well. But in her golden years, with comfortable savings and a stable pension, she still agonized over every expenditure beyond necessities. When her granddaughter graduated from college, Margaret wanted to attend the celebration dinner, but declined because it was at an expensive restaurant. When her book club planned a weekend retreat, she made excuses rather than spend money on what seemed like an unnecessary luxury. Over time, her extreme frugality began costing her experiences and connections. The experience investment. While financial security is important, using money only for survival rather than connection and joy can lead to a poverty of experience. Research consistently shows that spending on experiences, especially shared experiences, contributes more to happiness and life satisfaction than accumulating possessions. The balanced spending approach. Create an experience fund. Designate a specific portion of your budget for activities that bring joy or strengthen relationships. Having money specifically allocated for experiences makes spending feel more intentional rather than frivolous. Calculate the cost per memory. When considering an experience, think about the lasting value. A $50 dinner with family might provide years of happy memories, making it an excellent investment in relationship satisfaction. Start with small experiences. You don't need expensive vacations to practice balanced spending. Try a new restaurant, attend a local theater performance, or take a scenic drive to build comfort with experiential spending. Consider the cost of isolation. What is the price of missing family celebrations, friend gatherings, or community events? Sometimes the cost of not participating is higher than the cost of joining in. Margaret's shift began when she calculated that attending her granddaughter's celebration dinner cost less than she typically spent on a month of premium cable channels she rarely watched. That perspective helped her start saying yes to meaningful experiences. Behavior number 9, generational dismissiveness. Margaret's grandson, Tyler, was excited to show her his new video editing hobby, but Margaret's response was immediate. In my day, kids went outside and used their imagination instead of staring at screens all day. Tyler's enthusiasm deflated and he quietly put away his laptop. Margaret thought she was sharing wisdom about the value of outdoor play, but Tyler heard something different. His interests didn't matter, his generation was inferior, and his grandmother didn't respect his world. The generation gap trap. When we constantly compare current times unfavorably to the way things used to be, we inadvertently communicate that younger generations' experiences are less valid than our own. This creates distance rather than connection and can make younger family members feel criticized rather than understood. The bridge-building approach. Lead with curiosity instead of comparison. Instead of, "We never had that in my day," try, "That's fascinating. Tell me more about how that works." Or, "What do you enjoy most about that?" Find the universal themes. Rather than focusing on different methods, identify shared values. Tyler's video editing requires creativity, patience, and skill, the same qualities that went into Margaret's quilting hobby. Share your experiences as additions, not corrections. You can honor your past without diminishing their present. Your video editing reminds me of how I felt when I was learning photography. There's something magical about creating something beautiful. Ask for their expertise. Let younger generations teach you something from their world. This reverses the typical dynamic and shows that you value their knowledge. Margaret's relationship with Tyler transformed when she asked him to teach her basic video editing so she could create a digital family history project. Their weekly sessions became precious bonding time where both generations learned from each other. What's something you've learned from a younger person that surprised you? Share your story in the comments. Behavior number 10, harboring past grievances. Margaret carried invisible baggage from decades of accumulated hurts. Her sister's thoughtless comment from 10 years ago still stung. She replayed arguments with her late husband, wishing she'd said different things. The neighbor who never returned her casserole dish remained on her mental list of disappointments. These unresolved grievances created a constant background tension in Margaret's mind and affected how she approached new relationships. She found herself guarded, expecting disappointment, and interpreting neutral interactions through the lens of past hurts. The weight of resentment. Holding on to past hurts doesn't punish those who wronged us. It punishes us. Chronic resentment increases stress hormones, disrupts sleep, and can even impact immune function. More importantly, it prevents us from being fully present in current relationships. The release process. Acknowledge without excusing. You can recognize that something hurt you without requiring the other person to have been wrong. Sometimes people make mistakes. Sometimes circumstances were difficult, and sometimes we simply remember things differently. Focus on your current self. Ask yourself, how is holding on to this serving my life today? And what kind of person do I want to be moving forward? Sometimes the answer isn't about the past, it's about your future. Practice the letter technique. Write a detailed letter expressing everything you wish you could say to someone who hurt you, then destroy the letter. This process often provides emotional release without requiring confrontation. Seek understanding over apologies. Instead of waiting for others to make things right, focus on understanding why people behave as they do. This doesn't excuse harmful behavior, but it can free you from the need for their validation. Margaret found peace when she wrote letters to people who had hurt her, including her deceased husband, and then ceremonially burned them in her fireplace. The ritual helped her release years of accumulated resentment. Behavior number 11, ignoring health warning signs. Margaret noticed she'd been feeling dizzy when standing up quickly, but she dismissed it as normal aging. Her vision seemed slightly blurrier, but she figured her prescription just needed updating. Eventually, when she felt unusually tired after small activities, she told herself to push through. The wake-up call came when the dizziness caused her to fall in her bathroom. The emergency room visit revealed that her blood pressure medication needed adjusting, something that could have been caught and corrected during a routine checkup. The prevention principle: ignoring early warning signs doesn't make them go away. It often allows small problems to become major crises. What might be easily managed with lifestyle changes or medication adjustments can become serious health emergencies when left unaddressed. The proactive health strategy. Track changes, don't dismiss them. Keep a simple health journal noting new symptoms, changes in energy, sleep patterns, or physical comfort. Patterns become clearer when written down. Schedule regular checkups even when feeling well. Preventive care isn't just about catching problems. It's about optimizing your health for the best possible quality of life. Communicate clearly with healthcare providers. Don't downplay symptoms or assume they're just aging. Describe changes accurately and ask specific questions about prevention strategies. Build a health support network. Stay connected with friends who can notice changes you might miss and who will encourage you to seek care when needed. Margaret now keeps a simple health notebook and has regular coffee dates with a friend who's committed to honest observations about each other's well-being. This buddy system has helped both women stay proactive about their health. Behavior number 12, abandoning joy and playfulness. Margaret couldn't remember the last time she'd laughed until her stomach hurt. Entertainment had become limited to news programs that left her feeling worried about the world. She'd stopped doing things simply because they brought her joy. No dancing to favorite songs, no silly games with grandchildren, no moments of pure fun. Life had become functional but not fulfilling. She managed her responsibilities, but had forgotten how to celebrate small moments of happiness. The joy imperative. Laughter and play aren't frivolous. They're essential for mental health, physical well-being, and social connection. When we stop making room for joy, we not only diminish our quality of life, but also become less enjoyable for others to be around. The Happiness Recovery Plan. Schedule joy like an appointment. Put fun activities on your calendar and treat them as seriously as medical appointments. Whether it's watching a comedy, playing with pets, or trying a new hobby, joy deserves dedicated time. Reconnect with your playful self. What made you laugh as a child? What activities used to bring you pure delight? Many sources of joy remain available to us if we're willing to embrace them again. Seek out positive influences, limit exposure to consistently negative media, and seek out uplifting content. Choose entertainment that leaves you feeling better rather than worse. Practice gratitude for small pleasures. Notice moments of beauty, humor, or satisfaction throughout your day. Acknowledging these moments increases their impact on your overall mood. Margaret's joy journey began when she decided to dance to one favorite songs each morning while making breakfast. That small act of celebration gradually expanded into weekly game nights with neighbors and monthly outings to comedy shows. When was the last time you had a really good laugh? Share what brings you joy in the comments. We could all use more reasons to smile. Margaret's transformation, a story of hope. 6 months after recognizing these patterns in her life, Margaret was barely recognizable as the isolated woman she'd become. Her home buzzed with activity, neighbors dropped by for coffee, her family called more frequently, and she'd even joined a community theater group where her love of storytelling found new expression. The changes weren't dramatic individually, but collectively they created a ripple effect. As Margaret became more positive, patient, and open to connection, people responded with warmth and inclusion. As she took better care of herself and embraced new experiences, she felt more confident and engaged with life. Most importantly, Margaret learned that aging doesn't have to mean becoming isolated or difficult to be around. The habits that push people away can be transformed into behaviors that draw people closer. Your turn, creating connection and joy. Which of these 12 behaviors resonated most strongly with your own experience? Perhaps you recognized yourself in Margaret's story, or maybe you saw these patterns in someone you love. The beautiful truth is that it's never too late to make changes that improve your relationships and enhance your quality of life. Start with just one behavior. Choose the one that feels most manageable or most important to address first. Small, consistent changes create momentum for larger transformations. Remember, aging is inevitable, but how we age and how we connect with others during this journey is largely within our control. If this video provided value for your life or someone you know, please hit that like button and share it with others who might benefit. Don't forget to subscribe to Elderly Active Life and ring the notification bell. We're here every single day with content designed to help you thrive, connect, and find joy in your golden years. What's one small change you're committed to making after watching this? Share your commitment in the comments below. We're cheering you on and would love to celebrate your progress. Your best years don't have to be behind you. They can be happening right now, filled with deeper connections, greater joy, and the wisdom that comes from a life well lived and consciously chosen.